Friday. Some of the businesses that will be affected will be hair salons. Let's get some perspective right now from Norm Wright, who is a hairstylist with Taz Hair Company. Norm, nice to be able to speak with you again. You and I talked a number of months ago during the closures. Then obviously we're allowed to reopen, and here we are again. So let me get your reaction to Friday's news.
I think it's a smack in the face. Hair salons, I've spoken with hair salons all over the country and all over North America through social media. Not one of us has received not only a call, but no visits from an inspector. No one has taken the degree of social distancing and all the different protocols that we've put in place at salons. Nobody's taking it seriously. If there was a super spreader event at a hair salon, not only in Toronto, but in the world would have heard about it by now, and it's just not happening. Friday's news was devastating for all of us, because we all had to incur at least a 4-month deficit, and the one ray of hope that we all had was that we might be able to retrieve some of that lost revenue during the Christmas rush, but now that's gone too. I don't understand the logic behind it.
Right, and I know that you have petitioned Ontario government throughout the summer, have over 10,000 signatures. Again, it sounds as though your conversation has been one-sided. You haven't had much response, but whatever happened with that?
I actually reached out to the Premier after his announcement on Friday, and I think because of the trouble I caused with my petition, he doesn't really show interest in wanting to talk to me. But when listening to his press conference today and how big businesses have had to, contemplate what he referred to today as a logistical nightmare when separating essential products from non-essential products. So I asked him to compare the reality that small businesses are staring down right now. While those companies record record earnings, we are all facing certain destruction. Christmas was going to be the one ray of hope we had, and now that's gone. And I just wish that they could attach some logic to these decisions, because when you walk into a Walmart or a Costco and people are banging into you and the odd person's not wearing a mask, there's no contact tracing. We've had these systems in place for a decade. Our computer software allows us, if you randomly pick a chair and a time and a day, I can tell you who sat in it, their name, address, phone number, and birthday, and who was in the room while they sat in it. So we've taken this very seriously. Salons that I've spoken to, when asked, how is it to wear a mask for 10 hours every day? And the only response I've gotten from every hair salon that I spoke to is that they all feel grateful for the ability to be able to stand behind their chair again. And for our government, municipal and provincial, to disrespect us to this degree shows us where their real allegiances are. They announced that the Hudson Bay was essential today. I'm struggling to figure out what the logic is behind that.
Yeah, and Norm, I think a lot of people are, right, in terms of looking at the big box retailers that are allowed to continue to be open, deemed essential services, etc. And as you say, though, you're looking at certain destruction. So difficult. I guess the government might say, though, that, well, we've got these support systems in place to help you bridge the gap between now and when we get to the other side. What do you say to that? How have these programs helped you or not?
The programs, I applaud them for their swift response in the beginning. But all of us had to take a hit. If you add up the money that the CERB was able to give, thankfully, to people, compared to what their expenses were, inevitably there's a deficit from day one. So Christmas for small retailers and hair salons and spas and things like that, Christmas was the one ray of hope that was going to allow us to possibly maybe come close to getting back to zero. And now that with this smack in the face on Friday, if there were statistics showing that we were the culprit in all of this, I could understand it. But rewarding the Hudson Bay today with being deemed an essential service, and then asking us to hold strong and we're all going to be okay. It's the respect that we're getting as small businesses. We're over 47% of the vote. And I don't think small businesses are going to forget about the lack of respect we received during this crisis when it comes to voting time.
Yeah. What do you make of the rent relief program?
It's helped for sure, and landlords have been quite accommodating as well. But it doesn't even go scratch the surface when we're in regards to overhead costs for a lot of these small businesses. It's too tough a mountain to climb at this point. And I would like to understand the logic and at least have a conversation. The decisions they're making are clearly not based on logic or fact. And I would like to be able to at least plead my case to the Premier. As I said, I've reached out with no response, but I'll continue to try. And I'm going to fight for small business. We don't have a governing body that we have to report to, so we have no one standing up for us. So I just felt it was time to be the voice. I mean, the messages I'm getting from people that are closing family-owned businesses that have been in their families for generations, it's just heartbreaking to me. And while big business might be the pulse of these big cities, the small businesses are the heartbeat, and our contribution is just as vital. So I want to remind our government that putting us on the back burner for much longer is going to have a dire consequence to not only the economy, but to our city's pulse in general.
Yeah. Norm, from this point forward, I mean, how will you go about, and I should correct myself, it was last night, 12:01 a.m. How will you manage for the next month?
Well, I applied for unemployment this morning because it started today, and I'm just going to have to hold on. I mean, like I said, we all incurred, at least in the best case scenario, we incur a 4-month deficit, and you have to make the best of a bad situation. While these big box companies record record earnings as a result of this crisis, we are all hanging on by thread, and if we're asked to do that for much longer, we're not going to be around anymore. People are going to be going elsewhere for the services that we offer, and businesses that have been an important part of our city are never going to be around again, and that's, to me, is criminal.
Yeah, well, especially since, to your point, some of these salons, have been family owned in business for so many years. And this is just so devastating.
Well, it's devastating, from the birth of a child and a christening to graduation, marriage, funerals. We spend an entire life with a family, and that's why I say our contribution is vital. And especially during times of crisis, when you can make people feel better about the way they look, that is one step closer to all of us finding light at the end of the tunnel again. And for us to be not deemed essential, we generate in Ontario alone $7 billion a year in tax revenue that the government desperately needs right now. And for us to not even be afforded the respect of a simple conversation or a phone call from an inspector to see how we're doing, or to see the protocols that we've implemented to make sure that everyone's safe. It just is a blunt reminder of where their allegiances lie, unfortunately.
Yeah, and it is amazing to see how large of a contribution your business is. Normally we'll leave it there. Great to see you again. Thank you so much for joining us as you do.
Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And we'll check in with you soon again. All right, that is Norm Wright. She is a hairstylist with Taz Hair Company. We will take a quick break, and when we come